You don't really know what the future is going to bring, but if you have really smart, dedicated people that are always learning and growing, you can pivot quick and you can pivot faster than your competition, and that's what we focus on.
Welcome back to another episode of the Collision Vision driven by Auto Body News. Today, we have a special panel-style discussion in our DRP series featuring two awesome perspectives in the same conversation. First up, we have Shawn Crozat, the CEO of G&C Auto Body, a large California-based MSO whose company has been built over decades around high performance and some great DRP and insurance relationships. This is Shawn's first time on the show. We have had his brother, Pat, who's also in the G&C organization, a couple times before as well. So we'll feature those episodes in the show notes to give a full G&C story. With Shawn, we also have Dan Tessadri, a senior claims operations leader on the insurer side in auto physical damage with CSAA Insurance Group, a AAA insurer. Today, we'll ask, what does each side truly look for when selecting and sustaining DRP partners? How can they make those partnerships work better? And what's changing in the DRP model as vehicles continue to get more complex? It's going to be an awesome conversation. I hope you enjoy the show. Shawn and Dan, thank you both so much for joining us here on the Collision Vision.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having us, Cole.
Looking forward to an awesome conversation and a really unique conversation where we get to hear from both a shop perspective and an insurer perspective. Shawn, this is your first time here on the Collision Vision, though your organization has been well represented by your brother, Pat, in the past. Would love to hear a bit about your background in G&C in your own words, if I could.
Sure, Cole. Yeah, my name is Shawn Crozat. I'm the CEO of G&C Auto Body. My dad started the business in 1972 in Santa Rosa. He was a painter in the Air Force, and when he got out, he started painting cars for a living. So it's a business owned by me, my two brothers, and my sister and mom. I became CEO 9 years ago after my dad unexpectedly passed away. Loved the business. We had about 15 locations up till 2020, till COVID, and me and the brothers had a lot of free time on our hand during COVID and said, hey, do we want to just sit still or do we want to try to grow fast? And we decided to grow fast. So we had 15 in 2020, and we just opened number 53 on Monday, and are continuing to keep growing every year. Our goal is 15 to 20% growth a year.
Man, congratulations on that growth. I know Auto Body News writes about you guys and the tremendous growth you have all the time. So very appreciative of your time here today. And with you, you brought a great insurance partner. Dan, give us a quick introduction if you could.
Yes. Again, thank you for having me on, especially with such illustrious company as Shawn.
Wow.
Dan Tessadri. I am the senior manager responsible for APD process and performance for CSAA, which is a AAA organization. My responsibilities include the direct repair network, the DRN as we call it, as well as contracts, partners, and pretty much APD strategy and a lot of those roles. So glad to be on.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Two very different, unique, awesome perspectives. Dan, I'm going to open up with a bit of a line of questioning directed towards you from the insurer perspective. What are the top criteria when you're selecting a potential repairer to partner with on a DRP basis? What do you look for? What gets you excited?
Sure. Well, to start off, I think CSAA as an organization has been in the insurance game, I think, since we have a sort of internal anecdote that Woodrow Wilson was president and Ford invented the assembly line. That's how long we've been in the business. So it's been a long while building up our brand recognition and building up our membership. So it's the reason I bring that up is that it is critically important for us from a membership organization standpoint that we look to partner with organizations that are focused on the customer, the member, that look for technical insights, efficiencies, that are leading the industry with repair quality, and have that recognized brand that can mesh in with our brand to really provide our membership with a top-notch experience from an overall process standpoint. So those are things that we really look for. We obviously have a fiduciary responsibility to our members, being a reciprocal organization. So expense is important, as every dollar is their dollar, and that's the way we look at it. So those are things that we look at from a standpoint of prospective partners. We're not focused in on large MSOs only. We really want to partner with both the larger organizations, the mid-tier or regional powerhouses like Shawn's organization, as well as single store operators or small multi-store operators that can provide that same level of experience that we're looking for in providing to our membership.
Fantastic. Appreciate kind of setting the table here for us. Obviously, a lot to consider when it comes to a potential repair partner. Things like cycle times and rework and overall quality, plus facilities, certifications, a lot to keep in mind. How do you kind of weigh that and compare that in importance to, call it, cost, which you mentioned as well, all of which is going to come into play when selecting the right partner, I would imagine?
I think they're all same sides or different sides of the same pyramid, right? So when you're looking at it, you're looking at not necessarily one being more important than the other, but they both, all of them actually hold up a strong presence with regards to how we look at it. Obviously, service is a key factor, as with every other carrier in existence. Maintaining and retaining our customer base and membership base is incredibly important. So when you look at a repair facility, and especially a DRN partner, we're looking at partners that can enhance the experience and enhance the name of our organization, and we want to do the same for them. We invest a lot in technology and performance criteria. So we definitely want partners that are forward thinking and looking at how best to approach technology, AI, all of those aspects, and incorporate them into sort of the new customer or the new repair process and experience. We're heavily invested in maintaining training and focusing on the understanding of the processes, the repair process. So we do a lot of work with ICAR, and we expect our partners to be ICAR Gold at a minimum. And we're really sort of focused in on organizations that are innovating in their space, that are really focused in on being a leader from a quality perspective, but also doing things that are looking at the next generation of repairs and how to overcome obstacles in getting those repaired effectively, efficiently, and accurately.
Obviously, every component of what we mentioned here about what we care about in a repairer comes down to safe and proper repairs and customer satisfaction. Talk to me about how you guys view customer satisfaction, how you measure it, and how you keep the dialogue going between insurer and shop partner.
So obviously, as a DRN or a DRP, our partners are essentially the ones that are interacting with our members or customers face to face, right? It's those organizations that bear the brunt of that communication or that interaction. So we're relying heavily on organizations that are supremely focused on servicing the customer, communicating effectively with the customer, communicating effectively with us, and really understanding the CSAA repair program. So enhancing that level of service and really being fine-tuned with the needs from a business perspective, because I mean every organization in this country is focusing on cost, right? It's par for course across the board, and we obviously are not inured to the effect that this has on our members' pocketbooks. So cost is always going to be an impactful component, but we're looking for organizations to partner with that really understand the AAA way, the real focus in on the quality aspect, the longevity of the brand, and acting as good stewards for that brand, and also that we owe them that same level of commitment.
Fantastic. Appreciate that perspective a ton. And Shawn, thank you for your patience as we now move kind of to the shop piece of the conversation, and then we'll mesh this all together in the latter half of the conversation. Shawn, we've had Pat on, as I mentioned a couple times. G&C is very well represented here with Auto Body News on the Collision Vision and across the industry. Something we've spoken a lot about is your investment in DRP relationships and work. How do you evaluate opportunities to partner with insurers, and what are you looking for in that relationship before you pull the trigger and get engaged?
Well, Cole, we work with 13 out of 15 of the major insurers. So we find that every insurer we work with to be very reasonable, and we're people dealing with people. So I haven't found an insurer I couldn't get along with. So I guess that's kind of hard to really answer, because there hasn't been any bad relationships or insurers whose programs weren't in keeping with our belief system.
People dealing with people, man. I think that's a fantastic way to put it, and something to keep the perspective moving forward. When Dan mentions a lot of their requirements and the pieces that are important to insurers in this case of that relationship, which criteria jump out to you as somewhere that you guys are really focused on being a great partner?
So I think what Dan said is what probably all insurers want. They want great service for their members or their insured. They want a quality repair. They want it done, reasonably fast, and they want it done at a competitive price, I think, are the main elements. And so that's what we focus on as a shop group, and what most of the scorecards we see on CCC for our insurers encompass. So we're always looking for ways to increase our training, to help us. How do we repair a car faster? How do we get more efficient? How do we improve our processes? How do we get our people better? When it comes to costs, okay, how do we cut any waste in our company? How do we improve our processes? Again, how do we use technology and harness technology to help our people be more efficient, to reduce the cost that we can pass on to our insurers? So I think, everything Dan said is what we encompass in our company, and we're always trying to improve upon that.
I think a theme here is the base case is you're doing good work at a fair price, the right way. That's kind of the entry level stakes that you got to do as a collision repairer today.
Agreed.
In this world. We have to do it. I think the thing that might set you guys apart, just a sneaking suspicion, is how you communicate that you're doing all of these things with your partners. How do you view communication with Dan and organizations like his?
Well, I think a lot of that information is available to them with the CCC scorecard. They know how we're doing. It doesn't have to be communicated from us. And maybe I misunderstand, Cole, but they can see how we're doing against the market. They can see how our service stacks up against our peers, how our cycle time, how our severity, all those sort of things. And so it's great that, every Sunday CCC updates us and lets us know how we're doing and if we got better or worse. And so really it's we all can see the scoreboard. There's no secrets. I remember back in the days, like 25 years ago, when I was as an estimator, my insurance guy would come in and he'd go, "Oh, Shawn, you got the highest severity in the market. You're the most expensive and your service is the worst." And I'd be like, and then he'd go drive to the other shop in town who's my buddy, and he'd tell him the same thing. And then he'd tell the other guy the same thing. And it's so different now, where we really are in partnership and we're both have an aligned goal. And I think CCC has made that available to us, so we can really see, are we competitive in the marketplace? Are we getting better, or are we getting worse?
No, extremely valid point. And it's rare to hear. So I want to peel the onion just a little bit. Such positivity around insurer relationships. And that might just be a state of mind and how you guys view that partnership as someone that's pulling you into growth, that's supporting you, that's bringing you work, and ensuring that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. But why are you guys so positive on that when it feels almost every other conversation out there, there's this adversarial relationship between the insurer and the body shop? How would you suggest people kind of reframe how they view that relationship? I think if you're pro growth and you want to grow your business,
it really makes sense. I think that there's probably people that are trying to get rich on it. Some people are trying to get rich on every car, and we're trying to make a fair profit and fix a lot of cars. And that's our philosophy, is that it's a win-win. And so I don't know, because I'm not in their companies. I don't know what they think. But I think we make a very good profit. We do very well, and having good relationships with our insurance partners allow us to grow to the size that we are today. So I'm not sure their perspective, but it's great for us.
Your success speaks to itself, right? And you look at the biggest collision repairs across the country, none of them could be where they are today without insurance relationships. So there's something to be said about a state of mind and how you view that relationship, and it makes total sense. Zooming out a little bit on your organization, obviously you've seen tremendous growth since COVID, and that's not an uncommon story, by the way, whether it's 08, whether it's COVID, times of kind of some scariness happening in the world, fortune tends to favor the bold. And that's certainly the case here. From a company perspective, how do you manage the challenges as you're growing of maintaining that high performance, that quality, that cycle time, that customer service across multiple locations, across multiple repairs, across multiple geographies to an extent? How do you view staying who you are and still being able to grow the way you've grown?
Well, Cole, that's why I have all these gray hairs. 5 years ago, we had 15 shops. It was brown hair, but not anymore.
We got to zoom in more to see too many grays. I'm telling you.
My camera's not very good, so I guess, because there's plenty. But I mean, it's not easy. I would start with, you need to have an incredibly good leadership team, and always be developing more leaders and growing your people, and you get results to your people. So, we tell our people, our 3 pillars of our company is our people, our processes, and our culture. And if we have the very best people and the very best processes and the very best culture, then we're going to be the best performers. So I know it's kind of simple, but that is what we continue to focus on. And the better our people get, and the better our leaders are, our general managers, our writers, our technicians, the easier my job gets. But I think you definitely have to build a strong corporate support team. When I think about growth, if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have been as cheap, and I would have put some of that corporate team in ahead of time. I would have overstaffed some of those new locations. And I made some mistakes in 2021 that probably gave me most of these gray hairs, but we've gotten better at it over time.
That's what it's all about, man. Hindsight's 2020. It obviously has worked out all right with you guys, and the momentum is it's palpable. I want to continue diving into the relationship piece, because that's what we're here to talk really primarily about today, right? We have 2 sides of the process that are both extremely important to that process. Dan, you nodded along when I mentioned the adversarial relationship and how Shawn's perspective is pretty refreshing there. What behaviors or practices from the best repairer partners you have can help build trust and stability in that relationship? What do you look for there?
Sure. And just to preface that, the DRP relationship obviously is a strategic relationship, right? I don't think that every organization is interested in that from a repairer standpoint. Neither do I think that there are DRP platforms or programs out there that are focused in on potentially maintaining the relationship side of the fence more so than the efficiency or the financial aspect of it. That being said, and going back to something Shawn said earlier, I think Shawn and I have had a relationship for about 20 years. So we've known each other since
kindergarten, apparently.
Well, I'll take that.
Sadly, no. Yeah, we're both kind of getting old.
Yeah, but so we've been through some interesting times, some times where we've had to have discussions on serious matters, and we've been through those patches based off of the understanding that the communication that we need to have has to be clear and concise. And that, I think, is a critical cornerstone of any relationship, whether it be professional or whether it be personal. If you have a clear and concise method of an honest method of communicating and are open to reciprocal feedback, I think that relationship will go a long way. That being said, it's like, I'm a firm believer in, say what you mean and mean what you say. Because if you don't, there's going to be issues. And I hold myself to that same standard, and we at AAA, at CSAA, hold our own staff members to that same standard. And we have dedicated team members that assist and work with Shawn and his group to make that process as more seamless as possible for that member who comes into those stores. So I think it's critical. You're talking about the relationship piece. Communication is the first pillar, and I think also, being innovative, being invested in technology, being invested in the future of this industry is critical as well.
No question about it. And to your point, man, I always say this is a big industry, but it's a small world. And your word is your bond. Do what you say you're going to do, and you immediately just it sets you up for a whole lot more success than the alternative. No question about it. Shawn, you mentioned working with 13, I believe, of the 15 major carriers in your geography, at least. I'm sure, and we're not going to get into any negativity toward anybody, but I'm sure there are some of those relationships that are just a cut above the rest. What insurer actions can help how well repairers like you guys can perform? What sets the best of the best apart from the rest?
I think not micromanaging is helpful. Our best relationships are ones that are more of a self-manage, where we know what our goals are. We're given our goals and an opportunity to achieve them, and let us, some of the insurers to kind of get out of our way and let us do what we're extremely good at doing. So I would say our self-managed relationships are our best. I would say the ones with the scorecards that we can really, that make sense to me and that we're aligned with, and some of the scorecards to me don't always make the most sense. And I would say from an insurer standpoint is some of our insurers do performance-based referrals and some don't. And so I feel that performance-based referrals incentivize us to get better. We put more energy and time into it and training, and we see a reward for our great performance. So those are our very best relationships with the performance-based ones.
Awesome. Dan, I want to throw it to you as well. I find myself moving in this direction in so many conversations on the Collision Vision about what separates the best from everyone else, because I think it's a cool part of the listener base here. Anybody who's listening to this conversation right now is listening because they want to get better. They want to be the best. Dan, from your perspective, what separates the best shops in how they kind of work with and communicate with you from everyone else?
From a shop perspective, I would say those facilities that engender a culture of strong communication, strong training, strong adherence, and open dialogue with our assigned staff, those are the ones that perform the best. The ones that ask the questions surrounding performance, surrounding opportunities, that are delving into their scorecards, that are knowing and understanding the impact of the numbers and the drivers of those numbers. And frequently we get responses from our membership and from other customers indicating that your repair facility knew the process, were seamless with respect to understanding the CSAA and the AAA service ethos, as well as providing an excellent quality repair. It's those organizations that really sort of, when the time comes, when we have these discussions, whether they be monthly checkpoints or whether they be checkpoints when our staff go out into the field to complete reviews and coaching and training sessions, that ask those questions and are really involved, and sometimes push back on items that we have that may not make sense to them, and we have to really explain sort of the thought process behind and really underscore those items. Those are the relationships that I think develop the most, because again, it comes back down to wanting to understand and wanting to partner and really being strategic about their decision to partner with that carrier.
You mentioned the word conflict. Even in the best relationships, whether that be business or personal, conflict is going to exist. Dan, I'll start with you, but I'm going to ask Shawn the same question. How would you like your partners to address and handle conflict when that ultimately arises?
From my perspective, everyone makes mistakes. We do. Again, it's people dealing with people, as Shawn alluded to in the beginning. I think what needs to be done in order to circumvent any bad blood or any issues regarding frustration is to not focus on the impediment, not focus on the particular barrier surrounding the relationship or the concern, but how do we prioritize a way through that impasse? Looking for the solution as opposed to focusing on the problem has always been one of the cornerstones of the way I like to do business, and the way that we've developed within CSA and the AAA sort of ethos of getting to the point where we resolve these matters and come to a satisfactory conclusion for our membership as well as for each other.
Shawn, how about you, man? When a conflict arises with an insurer partner, mistakes happen. To Dan's point, humans dealing with humans. To your point, how do you want to see that conflict get addressed and ultimately resolved from a good partner?
I think most handle it the same way, kind of going back to what I said. And Dan, people dealing with people, sometimes people can get a little hot. But in the end, we both want to take care of the customer. And sometimes we have different information than the insurance adjuster has, different OEM stuff, or, people have a different background, what they've experienced through life. And so it's kind of both understanding each other and then both understanding that we both want what's right. We both want to take care of the customer. We both want a quality repair. We both, we want to be paid fairly. The adjuster wants to also pay us fairly. And understanding we all pretty much want the same thing. We may just be coming at it from different angles or different life experiences. And, I haven't found an instance where we couldn't come up with a win-win solution. So it's really that simple.
Love it, win-win. And I don't know if you guys have heard the couple episodes this month that are out already. Win-win-win scenarios continue to be a theme here in this series between DRPs and shops and all about those relationships. When you have the same end goal and a similar worldview in terms of wanting to do right by your end customer, there's very little that can get in the way of that happening ultimately, regardless of how you go about doing it. Dan, I want to start with
you. Can I comment
on
what you said though?
Please
Cole?
do.
You said something about comment. I think win-win-win is exactly it. Like the benefit of DRP programs really is to the benefit of the consumer. When cars go to DRP, they get, for the most part, a great service experience. Their car is fixed faster at DRP than non-DRP, which helps the service experience and also reduces rental costs. And we're able to repair cars to help keep costs under control as well. Things like free storage or reduced rates or just writing the estimate thoughtfully, a quality repair, but not going overboard. And so that savings goes to the insurance company, which then is passed on to the consumer. So really, it really is a win-win. Like obviously I win from these relationships. Dan's company wins, but also so does the member or the insured win by keeping insurance rates down.
Eloquently put. And sometimes guests make our editor's job very easy when it comes to finding short video clips to put on social. I have a feeling we're going to see that exact clip floating around social media here over the coming days. Very well said, and appreciate that a ton.
That's cool.
Dan, I want to kick it to you. And so many of the ends of our conversations here on the Collision Vision are requesting us to pull out a crystal ball and talk about where this industry is heading, what the future is going to hold for our listeners, which are largely leadership and owners of organizations across the collision repair industry. Dan, where do you see DRP models evolving and these relationships evolving over the next 3 to 5 years?
So I think that I listened to your last podcast with the last conversation you had with the gentleman that is now, I think, in the VC space. And used to work at one of the large top 3. And like every other industry, this one has paradigm shifts, has cyclic trends, has been impacted one way or another by certain events, be it, COVID, for instance, where we saw the power dynamics shift and trend for some time on the other sort of side of the fence. And now that we're seeing sort of financial uncertainty and frequency drops, we're seeing, the pendulum shift. Technology is going to play a significant part in how DRP continues to evolve. The technology going into vehicles, the technology from an accident avoidance system that affects those vehicles, the technology that both carriers as well as repairers utilize to not just repair a vehicle, but complete an initial blueprint from a standpoint of an estimate and documentation. I think all of that is going to continue to benefit from the impact of increased technology, AI, and also see the negative side of that based upon, obviously, the detractors that those technological insights bring. So I think from that standpoint, we're going to see a continuation of that. I think that for some, DRP may not be the way to go. I respect that decision entirely. It's a repair facility's ultimate decision on what to do with their relationship with the carrier. But there are also sort of strong non-negotiables in potentially what you're willing to do with respect to the relationship as it pertains to cost, as it pertains to service, as it pertains to the impact on your long-term business. I think we need to be a lot more strategic in the way we select partners, not just the repairer, but the carrier themselves, and look at, find those anchors either from a carrier's perspective in that market or from a repairer's perspective, find those anchors for your facility.
Shawn, I'm going to hit you with a very similar rendition of that question. From a shop perspective, how do you see this world, the DRP world, the insurance relations evolving here over the next 3 to 5 years?
I see them strengthening. I see more consolidation. Caliber is trying to go public next year. That'll be interesting to watch. Obviously, any of these private equity companies, their goals is sometime do that as well, go public. So I think the bigger are just going to get bigger. There's a lot of money coming to our space. And I imagine the relationships will just get stronger with insurance companies. And I think DRP programs help insurers be more competitive in the marketplace. So I see no reason why they wouldn't try to expand that. And that's obviously helped by the consolidation in our space of, consolidators, including ourselves, we're pro DRP. We have a great relationship with insurers.
No question. And it's strengthening because I think people realize in our industry that the more powers that kind of join forces and work through problems together that are going to ultimately create a better outcome for our end customer, who, it's life and death, right? It's a really good thing. A rising tide lifts all boats. I find myself saying that more and more in this industry. Shawn, from your perspective, from my perspective, and then I'll get yours, there's been so much evolution over the past few years, technologically and otherwise, to the point where we've seen new sub-industries pop up and exist that service the collision repair industry. Technology like ADAS calibration, technological advances in the vehicles we're fixing like EVs. It's been some components of the wild, wild west. How have you guys worked with your partners to find a good solution when maybe there's not some sort of widely adopted solution nationwide?
I think you work your way through it, possibly fumble your way through it. If I think back 7-8 years ago when scans first became a conversation, and maybe 5 years ago calibrations became a conversation, there wasn't information out there. There wasn't a lot of OEM position statements we were learning. And so it's a lot of learning, and it's a lot of conversations, and you kind of work through it. And I'm sure there'll be all new different technology 5 years ago that I can't even think of will exist, or a problem that will exist 5 years from now. And I think I just think about change in general, right? So COVID hits, California was one of the states that really shut down. It's okay, sales are down 30%. We're oh, we're in trouble. We're bleeding money. And then California reopens, I think it was June 2022. We skyrocket with work. We're totally slammed. And then April last year, it starts dipping again. The same time you brought in calibrations and all different kind of things. 7 years ago, who was talking about Tesla. So I think the name of the game is having a really good culture and great leadership team to know that you don't really know what the future is going to bring. But if you have really smart, dedicated people that are always learning and growing, you can pivot quick, and you can pivot faster than your competition. And that's what we focus on.
No doubt. Dan, you were on the other side, although collectively rowing the boat in the same direction, I'm sure. As we're tackling scans and calibrations and all that stuff, I would be shocked if there wasn't some friction out there between your organization and some partner shops. How'd you go about addressing that, and what do you see that looking like moving forward?
So I think, and our partners may be able to attest to this, we've been really at the forefront of accepting the OEM standards and requirements with respect to scans and calibrations. We've really been focused on making sure that our partners do so as well, because of the importance of getting that vehicle done the first time and being done properly the first time. So those are things that we've looked to educate ourselves around by speaking to repairers, be they the larger ones, the smaller ones, the mom and pops. We've spoken to myriad suppliers as well out there, and really look to understand the process. Because you mentioned the Wild West. I term it more of a gold rush, right? Because everyone essentially has tried to come to the table with potentially making as much as they can off of a lot of these things. And again, I'm not impugning anyone for doing so. That business is business, the market is the market. That being said, we as an organization have really looked into dialing in our approach from an educated standpoint around the whys behind it, the processes behind it, and the impact that would have without being done correctly. So we've been doing a lot of sort of reflection around that. We like every carrier, we have questions. And like every carrier, we will eventually land on a space where we have our own specific requirements and specifications around documentation and potentially pricing, right? That's a norm. But I think getting to that space needs to be from an aspect of learning and understanding before coming out with a stance on this is what we'll do with calibrations. I've spoken to Shawn at length around this as one of the advisors to sort of our process. So he can attest to some of the questions and some of the conversations that we've had. Those are the things that really will be able to long term separate us from the competition as well, because just like Shawn has competition, we have the same. And we're striving for retention, we're striving for new membership, but we're also striving to ensure that these vehicles get repaired to the OEM spec.
It's what it all comes down to. Absolutely. Gentlemen, this has been awesome and insightful. And we like to try to end each episode of the Collision Vision by putting a bow on the conversation with some actionable insights that listeners and shop owners can take away. So, Shawn, I want to start with you, man. You guys have had such a cool path toward growth. It's become such a great and well-known organization across the country. For folks who want to follow in your footsteps, albeit at a smaller scale, who they might not be a DRP partner, but they want to position themselves for the future and to kind of maximize what that future could look like. What advice would you give folks to set themselves up for success?
Gotcha. So just to be clear, Cole, the question is someone who's not a direct repair shop, but looking to become a direct repair shop.
Absolutely right.
So it's probably not the pretty bow you want on it, but I would say it's going to be tough. Now is not a good time. And the time to have probably gone after DRPs when you had really, because part of it's a track record, right? Like we have a track record of performance. And so, as we grow, Dan can kind of expect what we're going to be able to do in the future based on what we've done in the past. We're used to DRPs, the documentation, everything in CCC. So I would think that now would be a hard time to get on DRPs. At least I know in California, they're saying claims volumes down to 10 to 20%. I would think their best option would be OEM certifications, and specifically probably high line OEM certifications would probably be your best. But I would say that it certainly is it's a lot tougher now to get on a DRP, even for us, than 18 months ago, than before the market started to slide. So it certainly is a lot more challenging.
I will tell you what, though, my friend, it doesn't have to be all lovey-dovey, fake great news to be a pretty bow. I think that's very actionable and good insights. Dan, how about you from your perspective?
Yeah, from my perspective, I think it goes back to something I said earlier. Be strategic. Understand what you're willing to do and what your non-negotiables are with respect to potential partnership concessions or how you want your work to be appreciated by a partner. I think you need to be focused in on technology. I think you need to really understand repair procedures, OEM specs, and abide by them. Don't cut corners, and don't partner with folks who want you to cut corners, because that I hear that a lot. That as a negative from a standpoint of where the industry sees the DRP relationship. The carrier wants you to cut a corner. I've been in this business for over 20 years. I've never asked anyone to cut a corner. I've worked shop side, I've worked the carrier side. It's up to the individual. It's up to the individual to really understand who they are, what they want, be strategic, understand the impacts of a relationship within a shop ecosystem, how that will affect your staff, how that will affect your ability to grow, and really look to those partners who align with that philosophy.
Fantastic. Great nuggets of wisdom for our listeners, guys. Really do appreciate your time. Dan, for folks who want to connect with you and follow along with you and your organization, where can they do that?
I do have a LinkedIn profile. I believe I'm on it every now and again, but folks can find me on there, and obviously they can reach out to me at CSAA, or I'm sure Shawn will be throwing my number out as he frequently does.
Oh, ouch! Rarely.
There we go, Shawn. Shawn, what is Dan's cell for everyone listening here at home?
I have two phones. So.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Shawn.
Now, Shawn is one of those guys who has my personal number. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Fantastic. No cell phone number for Dan here, Shawn. But for folks who want to get in touch with you, follow along with your journey and the journey of G&C, where can they do that?
Well, you got an anti-social media guy, so I have no social media. So follow my brother Pat on LinkedIn.
I love it.
Sorry,
we will incorporate. I love it, man. We are going to incorporate all of that in the show notes to make it easy for everybody. Just one click for each of those. Dan, Shawn, really appreciate you guys for joining us here on the Collision Vision.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Shawn and Dan for an incredibly revealing conversation here today. Seeing how each side views DRP partnerships side by side is a rare and valuable conversation, and I hope you felt that way too. If there's one message to take home, strong DRP relationships aren't just about meeting baseline standards. They're about shared expectations, open communication, aligned incentives, and mutual respect. Now, DRPs may not be right for everyone, and we talked about that a little bit, but when you look at some of the most scaled organizations across the country, they do often have the fact that they utilize DRPs in common. So it's something to keep in mind. I hope listeners today walk away with new ideas to strengthen their insurer relationships, whether you're on the repair side or just starting to think about DRPs. As always, on behalf of the Auto Body News team and myself, thank you for coming along for the ride.